Hey, everybody. This is Del Howison from Dark Delicacies, and we are really excited here today because we have Disney author Jennifer Brody, otherwise AKA known as Vera Strange. She's doing a signing on the first book of a new series, and we're going to ask her a few questions about that. You are able to go into the shopping cart on the Dark Delicacies website, which is darkdel.com. Oh, there's Jennifer with her book. Look at there. That's a good looking book. So, Jennifer, I have a question for you,
Yeah, fire away. What you got for me?
which is um, you chose a pseudonym, or they wanted you to use a pseudonym for this new series?
This is actually the first time I've written under a pseudonym. All my other books, my Continuum trilogy, Spectre Deep Six, they're all written under my name, which is Jennifer Brody. But when Disney first approached me to do sort of a spooky villain story for middle grade readers, on both ends, we thought it would be fun to do a kind of spooky, creepy sounding pen name like Vera Strange, because it's a fun age, 8 to 12, where they still can suspend disbelief, maybe believe that someone scary and creepy wrote their book for them. We wanted it to have this kind of aura of mystery around the name, like who is Vera Strange that's writing all of these like spooky books. And then in terms of what the name would be, we went back and forth on a whole bunch of different brainstorms and names. And we
You were
just
allowed to pick it in the end, though?
I was allowed to have input. The cool thing about Disney with this series is, from the beginning, you're never sure with an entity like Disney how much they're going to allow you to be involved, especially with big canon characters like Ursula. But they've been incredibly collaborative with me and really gave me permission to set the tone, the point of view of the books, the stories, and that included the pen name. So yeah, we went back and forth. I suggested some, they suggested some. At one point, I think it was WD Strange for Walt Disney, and then we decided it needed to be a female name, and Vera just seemed perfect. I don't know, it's a pretty cool name, so I'm kind of stoked, but I'm still getting used to using it because this is actually the first book in the series.
This W.D. Strange sounds a little incestuous, probably.
Yeah, I think, but it kind of morphed out of that. So you know how that process of brainstorming works, where maybe you have the not right idea, but then it leads to the right idea.
Right.
And at this point also, I am writing the series. I'm already on the fifth book, which is kind of wild. The fourth is done and off to copy edits. But if at some point I step off the series, the idea is also for this to be a very big series, so it all published under the same name, very much
So
like
they
Goosebumps.
they gave you a Bible on the overall view of the whole series, and then you worked off of that,
Nope.
or did they give you a concept, or did they tell you which villain to use in each book, and then you had to write a story? I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah, there have been different scenarios on the different books. Originally, I auditioned, which means that they were talking to other writers, trying to say, "Hey, we have this idea for this book series."
You had to sing and dance and that kind of
Well, they
audition.
had to write like 2 audition chapters, but they asked me right then. They were like, "Which villain? If you could do any villain, would you do?" And for me, it was like, "Dude, I want to do Ursula. Come on, it's got to be Ursula. She might be my favorite. She's a witch. She's underwater. She's got personality. I love villains with great big personalities. She's also a lot of fun. She's probably, if not my favorite Disney villain, way up there. Plus, Little Mermaid is such a classic story. So they let me do Ursula, and I auditioned with about 2.5 chapters. I pitched my ideas to the editor. I think they had what I would say is maybe like a 3-paragraph concept for what they thought the story could be. But as you know, 3 paragraphs isn't a lot when we're talking about a novel.
So is there a through thread on all of these books, like an overall view?
Nope. Each book is a standalone story with a whole different setup, setting, villain, almost world, characters. Every book is completely different. I would say the through line is that with each book, I'm really trying to work and channel the villain that I'm working with. So it kind of, I kind of look at the themes, their point of view, and then try to channel that into the scenario, the story, the setting. So, for example, the first book is Ursula. So we're in Triton Bay, which is a fictional town I created, California on the ocean. with an aquarium and kind of this ocean centric. But for the second book, I did Dr. Facilier, which is the Shadow Man, who is one of their best villains in my mind, especially of the newer crop. He's a witch doctor. Obviously, for that one, we are in New Orleans. We are in the bayou. We are channeling that into the story. So
and then you have Captain Hook in number 3.
Ooh, yeah, that one. That's the first one where that was fully my original pitch on the story. By book 3, they kind of gave me a big list of who do you want to do? We're not sure. And I kind of went back to them and was like, well, you're Disney, right? You know your readers, you know your viewers. These are 8 to 12-year-olds. What villains are big for them? Like, what villain do you think they would be excited to read about? And they came back with Captain Hook, which wasn't on any of the lists. But apparently there was a show on Disney Junior when they were little called like Jake and the Neverland Pirates or something.
I watched every episode because of my granddaughter.
Yeah, so how old is your granddaughter?
Well, at the time, she was very young.
How old is she now?
She's like 11 now.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. So our readers is 8 to 12, right? So basically, your granddaughters who they're talking about, because the show was very big for them. So they very much love and know Captain Hook.
He was a big character in that cartoon series.
That's what they said. So those kids that grew up on it, they're now in the age range for Disney Chills. So I was like, sweet. I've always wanted to write a pirate book, number 1. And like to be able to add to the Peter Pan universe and canon is like a dream come true, basically. It's so classic. It's absolutely one of my favorite stories. I even love the Hook movie they did with Robin Williams. And Captain Hook was fun because if you really think about it, he's not really a villain. Actually, Peter Pan is sort of the villain in the story, right? It's not really a compliment to call someone a Peter Pan. It's like, where did Hook's hand go? I don't know. Peter Pan fed it to a crocodile. Like they're always playing pranks on him.
Self-defense.
He's got some reasons to be a little annoyed at Peter Pan, and the story really is it's not good to not want to grow up, right? That's why. So like the Lost Boys, Peter Pan, they're the Lost Boys, right?
Do you still have to give them an outline on each book before they approve it, or how does that work with you?
Yeah, I usually collaborate with my editor, and I've had great editors there. So usually, and I'm doing this process now on the new book, and so I just loosely pitch some ideas. I'll rewatch the movie and then pitch to the editor, and she loved them. So the next step will be that I'll get on the phone with her and just talk it out, and then I'll write a little 1-page for brand management to approve, which is Disney saying, all right. And I'll get any notes about what I can or can't do. And then usually with Chills, because the deadlines are so tight, I will do a very comprehensive outline for my editor, which is more to say, hey, if there's anything big that needs to change, let's change it now, because I'm not going to have time to completely redraft a book.
These books are coming out 6 months apart?
Yeah, it's a really, I'm backing into publication dates, and books 4 and 5 in the series are coinciding with new live action films.
Who are the new villains?
The villains, there's 2 new live action films next year. So the next books 4 and 5 go with those movies. So
we can't say who those are?
You could probably guess if you looked at the Disney schedule. The one I'm working on now is one that was very recently greenlit. And as soon as that happened, I knew that's what they were going to ask me to do for book 5, which I'm fine with. The thing is, Disney has the best villains. They really do. I mean, they're all great. I can't really think of a bad one. So maybe I'll say something later.
So this whole series falls under the title of Disney Chills?
That's correct. And
right now, it is totally your series.
Yes. I'm doing, at this point, I'm already greenlit into the 5th book, which will be, I have 3 of them, I think, slated for 2021. So, and you're right about the fast publication schedule. So yeah, it's me, it's Disney Chills. Each book, Disney loves their puns. They love their puns. So each one is kind of like a creepy pun. I think the second one is, instead of friends on the other side, it's fiends on the other side. My favorite so far is the Captain Hook title, which is Second Star to the Fright, which kind of makes me happy. And the cover designs are gorgeous. The artist,
it's great artwork on the cover. Hold the cover up so people can see the cover on the first one here.
Yeah, and
look at
I
that.
want to say, yeah, Disney, they really do have the best artists. Let's just be honest, they really do. And I think his name's Dave. And the Captain Hook one might even be my favorite so far. And the villain I'm writing now for the 5th book is apparently the artist's favorite villain. So we're kind of excited to see what he whips up for the cover of that one.
Cool. Let's talk about you for a second. You're a Virginia gal.
That's right.
And you found your way out to LA. How? You graduated from what? Harvard? Did I read?
Yeah. I went to Harvard for college, but I was like the weird art major in the sea of investment bankers or future investment bankers.
An investment banker.
There's just a lot of the finance bros and whatnot.
And you worked on Lord of the Rings, and you worked on the Golden Compass, doing what?
Yeah, so basically I moved, I studied film at Harvard. I interned, interestingly, at Disney for a producer on the lot when I was in college. I was in the old animation building, and we were in production on a little tiny indie film we were shooting in LA called Donnie Darko, which you may have heard of at this point. It was one of Jake's first movies. It was Richard Kelly's first film.
It's a cult favorite at this point.
It blew up. It was the company I worked for financed it themselves, a little $5 million movie. It actually wasn't, obviously we thought it was going to be great, but it wasn't intended to it was a little indie movie that has become a cult favorite and is quite fantastic and quite spooky. So then my first job, I moved out to work, I was the first hire at Platinum Dunes, where I worked on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I've worked on a lot of horror movies and huge.
Now you're talking up our alley here at Dark Delicacies.
Yep, there we go. Well, it's a lot of my background, and everyone thought we were crazy because nobody was doing remakes. We were really the first to do a true remake. There had been the Psycho shot by shot, but that was more of just Gus Van Sant having fun. This was the first time someone really took something and said, "Hey, this is a big title. The new generation doesn't know it, but it's got a lot behind it." And there was a producer named Mike Fleiss who weirdly does all the Bachelor stuff now, but he had gone after Toby Hooper and gotten the rights and brought them to Michael Bay. And this is right before The Bachelor. I remember him telling me, I've got this weird reality show. Anyways, so that was the first. And then I jumped from Platinum Dunes over to New Line, who ended up distributing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where I worked on the prequel with Dave Scow, if you know Dave.
Right.
He's a big horror author, and he wrote The Crow. Dave is a doll, so I kind of developed Leatherface's backstory with Dave, which was super fun.
That's going to go right to his head, I have to tell you.
Oh my God, don't tell him. I haven't seen it. I saw him, I want to say, at New York Comic Con, and he reminded me of some really funny Michael Bay story where we had to pitch him on the set of The Island, and Michael wanted to throw monitors because he was all pissed off, and I don't know, Dave was cracking me up. I love that guy. He's the best.
Yeah.
And I worked there, and I worked for a guy named Mark Rodesky, and Dave and Mark are tight, but Mark did The Lord of the Rings. I see that Return of the King poster over there. So my boss was the head of Fine Line, CEO of the studio, and the executive producer of Lord of the Rings. So.
What a great way to start and break in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and he's just a great guy. There's a lot of not great people in Hollywood, as you've probably heard, but Mark is definitely... I know, shocking. Who knew? There were some jerks in Hollywood. Mark's definitely one of the good guys. So, and New Line was a cool place to be. We were making Freddy vs. Jason. We were doing good comedy stuff, horror. We did The Golden Compass. And
now, I heard that you are a sci-fi nerd.
Huge. Well, I mean, that's my brand. My book trilogy, like the 13th Continuum, is a sci-fi trilogy with multiple points of view and big world build.
And also you're a graphic novelist.
That's right. That's new for me. I just sort of am a big nerd and fan of them. And I've worked with some different writers. I worked with Neil Gaiman back in the day on bringing Sandman to life, which didn't go forward, but those comics are amazing. And then I worked with Grant Morrison. If you're familiar with Grant, he wrote like Batman Arkham Asylum and something called We 3, which we tried to do, which we developed. So I've always been kind of a fan. And then I was like, oh, wait, I would like to write them. How do I do that? And so I started a process where I found this great artist named Jules Rivera. And we ended up putting 2 different book proposals together, thinking, hey, maybe we'll be lucky and sell one of these. One was called Spectre Deep 6, about soldiers who die, and our backpack is actual ghosts, specters, to continue to carry out missions in exchange for day passes to haunt their old lives and fix their unfinished business. So they're a ghost secret agent, so it's got some spooky elements for sure. And then another one called 200, which we just delivered and comes out in the spring. And I was like, hey, we'll be lucky to sell one of these. And then my publisher stepped off and offered us 6 books, so they'll both be trilogies. So we sold them both, and hey, keeps us busy. But I do love working in graphic novel, and all this stuff that I have, we're also trying to develop for film and TV right now.
Your fingers are in a lot of pies.
Keeps me busy. I like being busy, but I just like telling stories. So, and I do kind of write a blend of sci-fi, horror, fantasy. I kind of love all of these elements, and you'll see them in a lot of my books. But I'm happy Disney let me go dark with Chills, because I wasn't sure how dark they'd let me go.
Well, because it's for, what you say, 5 to 8?
8 to 12, but man.
8 to 12.
But I write horror for adults. I mean, I do, and I've worked on a lot of horror movies. So, I mean, it's fantasy violence, right? Like, you know.
Right.
We're supernatural, but I wrote the scares pretty hardcore because I was like, it's better to be too scary and pull it back than not scary enough, if that makes sense.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. It's easier to pull back than to push it.
That's what I say. If you write a book and it's not scary, it's probably not going to be scary. If it's too scary, you can pull it down. So anyways, I was like, I'm just going to write these the same way I would basically if it was for an adult. And the endings are so dark of every book. Even my editor is like, oh my God, every ending you write is so dark and so horrible. I'm like, nothing good happens in Chills. And like Disney, honestly, none of the notes have ever been about the scares. Scares have stayed. Endings have stayed. So they kind of let me do it. I'm like, sure, I'm going to give a bunch of kids nightmares.
All right, I hear we have, is there a question we have? That's, I'm getting a cue from the director here.
Are there any plans to adapt your Disney Chill stories to animation? Is that the question?
Yeah.
All right.
And while you're on that, how about some action figures too?
Well, that would be so dope. I'm very into Funko dolls. I'm a big nerd. I have all the horror ones. I get all the villains. I love the creepy. I just got Chatterer from Hellraiser. I was so excited for that one. No, I'm a huge Clive Barker fan. Huge. Hellraiser is my favorite thing of all time.
So no animation on the horizon at this point?
I hear on the DL, and I haven't had any official talks or anything like that, and this isn't coming from Disney. I just kind of hear. I have heard that there might be interest from Disney Plus in doing a TV show for Disney Chills, but it would be. I don't think it's animation. I think it would be like a live action show. But I don't know anything else, and that's nothing official. That's just talk that I've heard. But it makes sense.
But it wouldn't upset you if that happened.
It would be amazing. I mean, you know, I'm sure that they're, you know, with their own streaming platform, I'm sure that they are looking at a lot of their different properties to exploit. So I have no idea if it will go forward or what the status would be. I would say that if they did it, I think it would be super smart, and I would love to work on it and write, because I do film and television stuff. But yeah, so that's where we are with that. I mean, I think in the world we live in now, multi-platform is absolutely the way to go with ideas and material. And I think this would be a no-brainer. If you look back at the success of the Goosebumps franchise and how they really branched it out and how much there's still love and interest in it, I mean, I think this has that potential.
Yep. Well, congratulations with the Chills series.
Thank
and
you.
You're here signing, so I know we have a bunch of books to get you to sign. If people want to order this book signed, you can go on the shopping cart at the Dark Delicacies website, which is darkdel.com, and Vera will sign the book for you. So place the orders, and we'll have copies signed for after this time. I appreciate you being here very much. Thank you for coming out and doing. Oh, there we go, an actual signed book. But thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Del. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.